Welcome back to the One True Watch. I'm Chuck. Let's get into it. There are 4 things I strongly dislike in this world: pollen, beaches, people who use the word juxtaposition, and heights. So when my wife suggested we go to Mallorca, I was, as the kids say, not hype. But then she mentioned it would be virtually free for me, which resulted in me telling Berlin, "Yo homes, smell you later," because as you know, I'm broke. So we head to the island of Mallorca, and let me tell you, stick to the coast, whole lot of nothing in between, except roundabouts. And the people who take a vacation to a 90-degree island that's full of hills to bike everywhere, including the highway. And I know our hobby consists of wrist shots and juggling credit card debt, but we draw the line at spandex for at least 78% of the watch accounts we follow. The thing about family vacations is you spend most of your time with your family. But when my wife said this, "Shut up," I decided to ditch her the next morning and go hiking. And man, there were some spiky, dusty, just brushy trails for me to go up. But it ended up being a lot of fun and being kind of challenging, And eventually I did end up getting this Star Wars kind of shot, so I call this my Tatooine Tetra shot. Eventually I made my way up to the cliff edges and I saw this sign that basically said, "Hey, don't dive off these cliffs." And I thought to myself, there's no way a watch has ever rested on top of this sign. So up the Autobahn went. Next, I tried skirting the edges of the cliff, but my knees grew weak, my arms grew heavy, and I was about to lose it because, as I mentioned before, fear of heights. So I waved at some passing traveling hiking group and mostly stayed inland for the rest of the hike, which was fine because I ended up getting some pretty sweet shots. Eventually, I climbed down after realizing that direct sunlight on my bald head was just not the smartest thing. And then the voices of all of our mothers echoed throughout my head. Don't shoot in direct sunlight. It's never a good time. I try to stay as an early morning shooter, typically at golden hour or blue hour. Basically, the mood is great, the light and the shadows are amazing, and there's minimal people to see me doing my watch squats in public. This was the first time that I truly shot watch shots in direct sunlight, and since I don't like to move above a 3.5 aperture because I love bokeh, this was a really challenging kind of trip for me. So I had to jigger around with my shutter speed and basically drop my ISO into the negatives to pull off anything remotely looking like a clear picture, and sometimes that didn't even work. But at least it's fun to challenge yourself. Or that's what I told myself as I frantically rubbed aloe vera on my scalding head. The next day we went to a more touristy spot and spent the day there. Whoops, we spent about 30 minutes there, and for the sake of it, I got to charge the Autobahn and the Tetra's lume. Then we went to my new favorite place in the whole wide world, Voldemosa. This town is like the coziest, tiniest, just most amazing town. Just lights and shadow everywhere, cats, pretty good ice cream, and it was just an amazing place to take watch shots. Now for me, there's usually 1 or 2 shots that I'm taking in the moment where I'm like, man, this is a really great shot. I really like how this shot's gonna turn out in my head. And then I come back and try to edit it and notice, it was out of focus, there's a giant fingerprint on it, or there wasn't enough bokeh. Or maybe my creative idea to put my watch in yet another tree didn't quite work out. But this shot, this wall shot, I mean, the trip was free for me, but this one pretty much made it all worth it for me. And of course, spending time with my family and eating local Mallorcan cuisine. Pizza, I think they called it. But after a couple days of being in the direct sunlight, even my family got tired, so we retired to back where we were staying, which meant I couldn't really go anywhere because the car we rented was stick shift and I don't know how to drive stick. That basically meant that I was gonna walk around the grounds and try and get a few shots. Now, behind the combination of watch and street photography, this is the kind of watch photography I'm most comfortable with, which is a good and bad thing. Good because I know it's tried and true. Usually I can get a good shot, or what I consider a good shot, and just go with it. And bad because I'm technically not challenging myself. For me, and this is gonna sound pretty artsy, but just remember, I'm putting watches down on things. I get bored really easily. That's why I like street photography on the whole. One minute you could have this very nice streetcar zooming by, and the next you're being assaulted by pigeons. And for me, watch photography is the same thing. I got tired of putting watches down on handrails and benches and wooden things and bridge rails and what, I have a thing for rails apparently. Because I'm kind of like a crow. I'm just chasing after the next shiny thing. Like a watch. And that's why I'm doing travel watches, new scenarios, new cuisines, new shots and new experiences. But golden hour shots are cool anywhere, so what do I know?